To review what we just said, what we learned last week. We pointed out the contradiction, and we'll use the paper yet, we'll use it in a moment, but that's the one, yeah. So listen up. So we resolved the contradiction that we find in the words of Rabbi Yochanan in different places in the Gemara, and the same contradiction appears la'alach in the Rambam. And the contradiction is, in one place it says in black and white the following words: MITZVOS beteilus lasid lavai. There are no mitzvahs when Mashiach comes. Period. And that's why you can bury someone in shrouds, in tachrichim of shatnez. He's going to get up wearing shatnez. Tchias hamesim. That's prohibited. No problem, because there are no mitzvahs. That's one statement. And yet, Rabbi Yochanan, if you remember in the proof, to Tchias hamesim, the context there is the revival of the dead, which is what we're talking about, that the future era. The context there of the proof that there will be Tchias hamesim, where do we see it in Torah, is we're going to give Truma to Aaron. So these are going to be mitzvahs. It's a flat-out contradiction. The same contradiction, or so it appears, in the Rambam. The Rambam says you can bury someone in shrouds, which means there's no mitzvahs in the future. And then he says the end of Hilchos Megillah, he said the 5 books of the Chumash is forever, the Megillah is forever, and all halachas are forever. Nevi'im and Ksuvim are not. He says it clearly. Halachas shaterish shabapeh einam beteilim lo'elam. So how does the Rambam say you can bury someone in shrouds? So we answered that, and we said, by looking at the language precisely, MITZVOS beteilus la'asid lavai. What's going to be nullified is mitzvah. What will not be nullified is the halacha. Isn't that the same thing? The answer is no. Because mitzvah means 2 things. Of course, there's the actual act. That's forever. Tefillah forever. Truma is forever. Shatnez is forever. So how can you bury him in shatnez? And what does it mean, mitzvahs beteilus? We explained last week. What is going to be no longer? No longer is going to be Hashem commanding us. In that sense, no commandments. Commandment means I could do it or not do it. Commandment means there's 3 things: the commander, the one to whom is being commanded, and the commandment. Those 3 things finished, no longer. The Jew, and therefore the world, is one with Hashem, absolutely. And Hashem's will happens organically and naturally without the commandment. That's the meaning of mitzvahs beteilus. Halachas are forever. They will be happening, but not as a commandment. That's the answer. So what we didn't say last week is, but what happens to the guy buried in shrouds? In tachrichim of shatnez? The answer is, the question is, so the halacha still remains, so there's, not that I have shatnez. And yet he's buried in shatnez. So the answer is, the moment of Tchias hamesim, the threads will just spring apart. It will be intolerable. It's be intolerable for the world to be in a state that it does not express Hashem's will. So it just will happen organically. So you can bury him in shrouds. Either there's going to be the prohibition of shatnez when he gets up, so it just won't happen. Why? Because the big news here is there's not a need to perform or command it. We'll do tefillin. There'll be shatnez, but it'll happen organically. That we explained last week. We got another question. A question that we're going to now deal with. The Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos, we read last week, that a machlokes that is not for the sake of heaven in the end, it doesn't endure. And the example is Korach and his entire congregation. Swallowed up, disappeared, gone forever. What's a machlokes that will last? Shammai and Hillel. We're still learning Shammai and Hillel. So the Arizal asks, but wait a second. The halacha is only like Hillel. So where do we see that both sides of the dispute are forever? So the Arizal famously answers that you should know that when Mashiach comes, Allah will be like Shammai. That's Arizal's answer. So Shammai will get his turn also. Also, Seifel, Iskayim, will endure, and Iskayim means fulfilled. When will Shammai be fulfilled? Seifel, Iskayim, not just in theory, but Kiyum. So that is, when Mashiach comes. So the Rebbe says, but wait a minute. So now Hillel's not. What happens to Hillel? Where's the Seifel, Iskayim for Hillel? And Bechlal, the Rebbe asks, for thousands of years we're doing like Hillel, and then when it comes to Mashiach and we're going higher and higher, thank you very much, Hillel, we're no longer, it doesn't seem right in Kedusha, we don't decrease, we increase. What happens to the opinion of Hillel then? And the simple meaning of the Mishnah is that the Machlokes, both positions, Seifel, Iskayim, will endure forever. The way we understand it now, that's not so. Now it's Hillel's turn, then it's going to be Shammai's turn, but when is it going to be Seifel, Iskayim, both of them simultaneously? That never happened. It never will happen, it seems. But we're going to see now, yes. And then to add something else that we said last week, which is part of what is already in our answer, we just asked the basic question that just taking one position, which we've reconciled, but how could you even suggest that mitzvahs shouldn't be forever? They must be forever because they're an expression of Hashem himself, like God's forever. And we explored what that means, because on an external level, the mitzvahs did their job, so no, you don't need them anymore. So yes, they're not forever. You got a job, build this. Once you've built it, it's done. You don't keep on doing it anymore. Finished. But the Rebbe says, no. Mitzvahs are rooted in Hashem himself, and like Hashem is forever, and there's no reason for God's existence, and beyond agenda, so is true of mitzvahs. The external dimension is the agenda dimension. Do mitzvahs in order to get reward, whatever agenda you have. But the essence of it is beyond agenda. So we said now, the talk is going to be forever, and it's going to happen in a way organically, as we just explained. We have not answered yet what happens, which lies at the core of the whole issue, which you're going to see in a moment. What happens with Hillel's opinion? It's been jettisoned, it seems. And the Mishnah says, Seifel, Iskayim, both opinions. So now to understand this whole thing deeper, look at the first chart. There's two charts over here. You want to look at this one, which I sent you again this morning. It's all in Hebrew. I will translate. And it'll all become clear. As I said, this is a panoramic understanding, my dear friends, of all of history and the whole evolution of the purpose of creation. And if you understand this, you will have the lens by which to view history and life on a whole new level. Now, the top of the page, there's a lot of abbreviations. Let me tell you what they are. The first one is Mimatan Torah ad Yemosei Mashiach. The era from the giving of the Torah to Mashiach comes. That, in other words, the last 3,000 plus years. The next column is what's going to be Yemosei Mashiach, when Mashiach comes. And the third column is Tchias HaMeisim. So we need a heads up to explain. Without going into the sources right now, what you're being told now is that Yemosei Mashiach itself has two epochs. This is clear from the Zohar and many sources. It's a whole discussion itself where we see this. It is somewhat of a novel insight. But there are two stages. Just to share with you a little bit. It's because it's a whole discussion amongst the commentaries. The discussion is the Rambam describes Yemosei Mashiach as very much a natural existence. The whole difference being we're no longer under servitude to the nations of the world. What about all of the miracles that the prophets speak about? What about Tchias HaMeisim? He doesn't even mention the revival of the dead when he talks about the laws of Mashiach in the Mishnah Torah. So the answer is that's a later era. That's a later era within Mashiach's coming. The Zohar says that'll happen 40 years later. There's different opinions. So the revival of the dead happens later. It's not only an event that happens after Mashiach comes, it's a new epoch. It's a new era in terms of the revelation of godliness, which we're going to explain. So there are three epochs. From the Torah till Mashiach, the first epoch when Mashiach comes, and then Tchias HaMesim, different relationship between God and the world, different revelations of godliness that we are connecting to and bringing into creation. Let's explore this. So the first column, now we're going to go horizontal and go down the page. Halacha, I'm going to just first read the words, translate them, and then explain them. From the epoch, from the giving of the Torah until Mashiach's coming, halacha kehilel, the ruling in the discussions, the disputes, as it were, between Shammai and Hillel, is almost always, there are exceptions, but almost always like Hillel. Why? In brackets. I'll say the words, I'll explain it. Because now the divine attribute that we are connecting to and bringing into the world is Midas HaChesed, God's attribute of Chesed, which is what? Milamayla lamata, that comes from above to below. Kulon b'shava, everybody's equal when it comes to Chesed. Mitzad ha'poel mamish, action, maise, which is action. Hachitzonius, external level of action, kula b'shava, everybody's equal. This is the avodah of the Beinanim. End of quote. Let me explain what we just read now. What are we doing now? What we're doing now is, from the time the Torah was given, is mitzvah by mitzvah, we are drawing godliness down into the world. What's the emphasis now? The whole Tanya is based on this. The emphasis now is action. Action. Do the mitzvah. Yes, we should do the mitzvah, each one with feeling and understanding, etc. We should try, we're not exempt from trying to transform our inner desires and become the tzaddik and aspire to it, but we may never get there, and perhaps we ought not get there. What is demanded of us is behave as a yid. And that we can all do. We can all, that's the whole point of Tanya, we can all be in control of our behavior. You may not feel godly, but you can certainly act godly, and you can speak it, and even your conscious thoughts. You can choose what to think about. Much more difficult, agreed. But it's a choice. It's a choice. And at the level of action, friends, we're all equal. Moishe Rabbeinu puts on the same tefillin as you and I do. In terms of his feelings and experience, worlds apart. But the main thing now is the action. Do the mitzvah. That's chesed. What's chesed? Chesed is, pure chesed comes down like water. Water will find the lowest level. It's the nature of water. Pure chesed says, everybody gets everything equally. Chesed does not differentiate. Hillel embodied in his life, his persona, his soul, his level of his soul above. He was chesed atzilus, which means a lofty level of divine chesed. That's what she embodied. And therefore, when he articulates the halacha, he's more lenient, he's embracing all Jews, he's not so demanding and exacting. Without going to the whole story and history of Hillel, he doesn't demand, doesn't exact, doesn't demand inner transformation. He's not judgmental like Shammai is. He is all embracing. Kinderlach, everybody can do the mitzvah. Now let's do it. That's Hillel. Chesed. From above to below, the emphasis is what? On action. Now the avodah is a beinani in Tanya. Beinani means behaviorally do what's right. That's till Yemais HaMashiach. The main emphasis is doing. The guy should put on tefillin. He doesn't understand, never learned, what does it mean? Okay, that's all important to find out and to experience. But first and foremost, do it. Now, next column. Yemais HaMashiach. Once we've done, the actions have been done, now comes halacha keshamai. Shammai is the opposite of Hillel. Shammai is gevura. Gevura is all about from below to above. Gevura says, what's Gevura? Gevura is midas hadin, the attribute of judgment. It says, there's no freebie. We're not giving you anything. You ascend and deserve it. You've got to arrive at it. It's got to come from within you. Chesed, like water, comes down. We'll see, Gevurah is fire, and fire goes up. And fire is only produced when the fuel gets consumed. What are you giving up internally? Shammai, the word Shammai means hasom or chaysav. The word Shammai means to carefully place one's steps. The word Hillel means light. Ball or light spreads. Everybody equally. Shammai is the opposite. You are judged. What internally, what's going on inside? Oh, when are we ready for that? When Mashiach comes. Now we talk already, love of God, awe of God, inner transformation. Midas HaGevura. Now is the time for Gevura. Milamata l'maylis, from below to above. Avodah pnimius, now internally, your feelings, kavana, intention. That's the main thing then. Avodah tzadikim. Then will all be the level of tzaddikim, love of God, awe of God, understanding. In the words of the Rambam, the world is filled with the knowledge of God. Man will understand and know. This is internalized. Then will all be the level of tzaddikim. This, by the way, this manifests when you're bringing up children, the same thing. The first part of their life, the child is born, it's all chesed. There's no demands on the kid. You give. That's it. Bring it down. Eat, my child. That's it. Kid gets a little bit older, discipline. That's stage 2, just to use a model. Then comes demands. Here we mean the demands here are internal ones. Internal ones. Okay. Now the big news I'm going to tell you now, which I'm going to explore the next few weeks, is like this. What's going to happen then? What Tchias HaMeisim? So who's the halacha like? The Arizal, when he said the halacha is like Shammai when Mashiach comes, was speaking the first era. But the second era, Tchias HaMeisim, like who? Answer, both simultaneously. Look in the text. Tchias HaMeisim, halacha keshnei bebas achas. We'll do mitzvahs without being commanded, as we learned, organically, like both at the same time. Can't imagine it physically. We'll wait and see. But that's what's going to be. Why? V'zeo pirush HaMishnah. That's what the Mishnah says in Avos and Perakei Mishnah Yud Zayin. Kol machloikes shi l'shem shomayim seifo l'skaim. Both seifo, the end. What's the Mishnah talking about? Tchias HaMeisim, the very end. L'skaim, both sides will be. Machloikes Shammai v'Hillel. In the end, we'll actually have both. Why? Because, understand, then the mitzvahs are not going to be an agenda. The first 2 stages is an agenda. Agenda stage 1 is act Jewish. Agenda stage 2 is feel Jewish. That's your Moishe Mashiach, tzaddikim. That's why you do it. Refine yourself. Refine the world. Refine yourself. We're gone beyond the agenda. Now mitzvahs are just simply expressing God. Beyond agenda. And because it's beyond agenda, it'll be both at the same time. Shammai and Hillel. Seif on this guy. Not about fixing me externally. Not about fixing me internally, which are the first 2 stages. And we'll go further in the future charts. Fixing the world externally, fixing the world internally. We'll bring an example about making a house. First is making the house, putting in the whole infrastructure and the buildings and the digging and the walls. That's what we're doing till Mashiach comes. And that's messy. It's not refined. It's the heavy building blocks. Then you have to decorate the house. That's your Moishe Mashiach. That's the tzaddikim's avodah, the new ones, the decoration. That's the feelings, the love, the atmosphere. That's your Moishe Mashiach. Till Moishe Mashiach, we're building the house. Anybody can build. Just put the brick down, for God's sakes. Put on film. Now when it comes to decorating, that's already a much greater talent, which will all be at that level. That's the tzaddikim. But now that the house has been built and been decorated, now what? Live in it. It's there to express you and your soulmate. There's no agenda. We're not building anymore. You fix, build, done. Done. So what's mitzvahs now? Not building, not decorating, not painting, but just a pure expression. Everything in your home expresses you and you want. Enjoy it, live it, express it. That's mitzvahs. And it's going to be what? Shammai and Hillel, all the things that contributed to building this home. They are all, what are they at the end of the day? All expressions of us, of Hashem. Again, this last point is the point. Mitzvahs at their core are not about an agenda. That's the external. In the end, they're simply, God says, that's the way I express myself. In Tefillin, in Shabbos, in Shatnez. That's the way I express me. The external dimension is, and by doing that, you will fix the world one day will, and you will know me. But I choose to express myself 613 ways, and in the Shammai way, in the Hillel way, and it's all part of the way I choose to express myself. So then, when God is fully expressing himself, and us to him, which means we're living in the house and becoming one, this is the sacred bedroom, we will become one with him, then, so how are we going to do all the mitzvahs are equally valid, all the ways. Shammai, Hillel, because at their core, they are simply the different ways God has chosen to express himself. So when it's about an agenda, you have your time. We're building, now we're decorating. They have different stages. First chesed, and then there's gevurah, kind of both at the same time. But at the end, chesed is me, gevurah is me. This is just the way I'm supposed to express myself, all equally. Hence, it'll be simultaneous. The actual observance, the world organically, how will it look, we'll see. We'll do the mitzvah, the way Shammai says, the way Hillel says. It's not just true Shammai and Hillel. It's all the tzaddikim and all the minhagim in different ways and all to do things. It'll all be valid. It always was valid. But there's also stages. Do it this way, now we do it that way. That's for the agenda dimension. But again, when it comes to the end, the agenda is over. It's just simply, that's the way I express myself. So everything is true and eternal. Seifel the sky. It is somewhat clear. It'll get clear, God willing, as we go through the charts deeper and deeper. It's a very deep union, but let's go for it. Give a wonderful Shabbos, everybody.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Thank you, Rabbi.